Minutes.
Ms. Barra, I want to ask you a question about the situation in the Cobalt. If one of my two twin 16-year-old granddaughters driving in the Cobalt and inadvertently the ignition turns to the accessory position, if they, who just got their driver's license 3 months ago, I would think that their initial reaction would be to try to turn the car back on, start the car back again, although it's in drive and it's not in neutral. Would the car start back up?
Well, first of all, if they were driving the vehicle and they had just the key in the ring, this condition shouldn't happen.
No, but if it did happen. Let's assume that it did happen.
Right. Okay, so then you've got to put the car, you've got to restart the car. I guess.
I think the answer is you would have to put it in neutral.
Put it in neutral
before it would start,
right.
And that would be pretty hard for a 16-year-old inexperienced driver to even think of with an 18-wheeler bearing down on them. And you know, I just as I listen and the other hearing that you were at several weeks ago, General Motors has got to have the best engineers in the world, whether they're electrical engineers or mechanical engineers, probably both. How in the world would they not know that when the ignition inadvertently, because of the low torque, and it shifts to the accessory position, the engine stalls, that would also deactivate the airbags? I would think that kind of testing is done to a fare thee well before a vehicle is approved for sale. I mean, how could they not know that?
I can't speculate on why they didn't know. What I can tell you is any time a vehicle stalls now, we consider it to be a safety issue. And if we find that there's a malfunction in a part or a defect in a part that causes the stall to occur, we're going to...
Well, I would say a safety issue indeed if the side airbag would not inflate if somebody got T-boned in the middle of an intersection when this happened in a young person. Even an experienced driver of 40 years is not going to think that quickly. Mr. Valukas, and I think you alluded to this a few minutes ago, if not for the Brooke Melton lawsuit, and Brooks, I can't see the back of the room, but her picture may be up there on the wall. She's in my district in Paulding County, Georgia, the 11th Congressional District of Georgia. If not for the Brooke Melton lawsuit, and she was killed, and the fact that her lawyers figured out that the ignition switch part from model year 2008 was different from model years 2005, 6, and 7 in the Cobalt, would we even know about this ignition switch problem today? Would we even be aware of it?
The answer is yes, because there was an open and, at that point, significant investigation going on at that particular point. And certainly there was information and evidence that was accumulating as they were going forward, pointing to the fact that they had these non-deployments, pointing to the fact they had fatalities, and pointing to the fact that the switch had something to do with it.
Well, that smacks of a big cover-up to me. And after General Motors learned of this change, it took months for GM outside experts to confirm that there had been a change. Why did this take so long?
I don't have a good answer for that. I can tell you it did take that long. I can tell you that from the time of April of 2013, when that deposition took place, they knew or should have known at that point that they had two different switches, and they gave it to Mr. Malati, the expert, and he came back with his confirmation of what they were given in the way of information in April, and that took until almost October.
Yeah, it's amazing. And when the issue was presented to decision makers in December, no recall was announced. It took another month and a half before GM finally decided to recall the Cobalt. What information was missing in December that prevented GM from issuing a recall at that time? Ms. Barrett, can you tell me?
I can't talk about the specific information. I think we do know that not all the information was presented at that meeting. I would say when the right information was in front of that group, they did make the right decision, but I would also say, and I've said publicly.
Well, let me just say in my concluding 35 seconds, this whole sequence, from the time the company learned of a potential difference in the parts during the Melton litigation to the time the recalls were announced took 10 months. Ms. Barra, why the foot dragging? Is this typical of GM's investigations into a product concern? And how do you intend to change this?
Well, we already have with the way we're working through recalls today. We've changed that process. It's expedited, and the most senior levels of the company are involved in it. And I think, again, although I don't want to do recalls, we're going to do what's right for our customers, and we're demonstrating it today.
Thank you, and I yield back.